How do you react in life in general if things don't go your way? Do you just give up? Do you just stop trying? Or do you start looking for solutions? And do you take a deep breath, step back, and look at the bigger picture? Generally in life, even if we don't see instant gratification or instant results, we still have to keep pushing. We still have to keep going. We are burdened with uncertainties in our daily lives. Many things we have no answers to. Many things are still unknown to us. However, if you look at the industry, any industry, but let's stick with the financial industry, the blockchain industry, stock markets, real estate markets, all of these, they usually give us indications. And even right now, we're looking at coin market cap right now, and we ask ourselves, why is the market so volatile? Why is the market bleeding so much? Why is so much uncertainties going on? So in today's session, we're going to highlight and dissect in the crypto industry. If things don't go our way, what's our reaction? What's our call of action? How do we react? What's our mindset towards that? So let's take one step at a time. So as we all know, we see how the markets have been extremely volatile, and it's really in the red, and there's so much uncertainties in the markets. So let's understand, first of all, why. Why is the market like this, right? So in order to understand that, we need to understand that this is exactly how the month of August started. So August 1st, once more, tariffs are back on the table. And if we see here, we understand that yesterday, Friday, President Donald Trump unveiled his so-called modified reciprocal tariffs, and he did this on dozens of countries, right? So meaning that whatever tariffs are issued to US, he's also using that same tariff on those countries, so calling them reciprocal. Of course, this caused so much uncertainty to the market because everybody understands that the global economy depends heavily on trading. And if trading is weaponized through tariffs, it's literally slowing down and it's slowing down the global trade, right? And it simply by making goods and services produced that more expensive, simply by importing them, right? So those who are producing these goods or even purchasing and importing these goods, it's a lose-lose for both parties. And usually once this is involved, it causes a lot of uncertainties in the market. So this is the number one reason why the markets are completely collapsing right now, and it's causing a lot of uncertainty. In addition to that, we can see how, like we say, the largest cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin fell 3%, below 1400, and even it went as low as below 113,000 as well. We saw Ethereum and Solana also going down 6 and 5% respectively. But besides that, a large chunk also came from liquidations that were triggered. Many went long, meaning that they were betting that the prices would be going up because these are people thinking rationally. And we'll get to the part where why did people speculate that the markets would go up? And they were wrong and they were liquidated. Liquidation basically just means that traders were forced to sell their assets at market price to settle the debts because those who trade usually are using the assets as collateral, and once the prices are below the value of the collateral, that's when they get liquidated. So those who posted, for example, Bitcoin as their collateral, there was a 228 million in liquidations, right? But this happens on centralized exchanges just within 24 hours. Same thing happened for Ethereum, which was even higher, 262 million. This just shows you that most of the time, the largest collateral placed is Ethereum. That's the preferred collateral. And these are assets that were placed by traders betting that the prices would go up. And we'll get to the part where why would they think the price would go up? This is where you realize that the market is acting irrational. The market is emotional. So another thing also, it affects the stock market as well. So as we know, Coinbase is listed, right? And they're also down. They were actually down to double digit, 16%. And also Circle also fell by 8%. So the Digital Galaxy also 4%. And the treasury company Bitmine is also down 7%. And even MicroStrategy, the largest public holder of Bitcoin, also crashed by over 8%. So it affected the stock market. It caused a bunch of liquidations in the hundreds of millions. The crypto industry, of course, led by Bitcoin and Ethereum, even Solana also collapsed heavily, and a bunch of other industries were also affected, obviously, right? So now let's get to the reason why the market is acting so irrational. And this is where this article comes into play. What just happened is something actually major, because the SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission, actually launched a Project Crypto initiative. And this is to bring all US financial markets on chain. Do we really understand what this means? All asset classes, mainly the four largest asset classes: real estate, commodities, the stock market, the bond market, all that, they want to bring it on chain, on the blockchain, right? And why is this so significant? It's because the US is the largest financial market in general, whether it's real estate, whether it's stock market, whether it's the bond market, whether it is the stock market, right? Like we just said, bond market, stock market, real estate, it's the largest, right? And this is why it's so significant. So this is something that was just give the Security and Exchange Commission a 180 flip, because keep in mind, when Gary Gensler era, they were just suing everything that had to do with blockchain, with smart contracts, staking, DeFi. But this new administration is literally launching a Project Crypto initiative, and with the sole mission to bring all US financial markets on the blockchain. This is massive, community. And this is why you saw so many betting that the prices would go up, and they got liquidated, placing bets, placing their assets and betting long, meaning that the prices would go up. After such a message, you would think that the market would be rational, because this is big news. This shows you where the Security and Exchange Commission, the current administration, including the sitting president of the US, they're all pro-crypto. And this is a massive news that would actually, in the last bull cycle, would have triggered the market to just, go forward and just kickstart a massive bull cycle. But this market is just so irrational right now. And with the uncertainties of the ongoing wars going on, and the tariffs going on, the unemployment report that just came out on Wednesday. So there's so many things that affect the global economy that are literally causing uncertainty. And the markets don't like uncertainty. They like to be in the know. They want to understand what's happening clear right in front of their faces. However, like we said, this is a major news that actually would have, in any market, should have triggered the bull cycle right here and now. So this so-called Project Crypto initiative is to modernize securities rules and regulations and to allow crypto-based trading on-chain. This is massive. And what this means is, and it's referring to blockchain technology specifically. Whenever you talk about blockchain technology, you're literally talking about smart contracts. You and I know the largest smart contract blockchain is by far Ethereum, but we are not going to just take my word for it. We're going to go through all of this step by step for us to understand the impact of this. Why are we discussing this in the first place? It's because we ask ourselves this question: why do things not happen how we want it and when we want it, right? That's the question we ask ourselves. And if we look at this market and with the news that we just discussed and what we've just seen happening and about to take place, this market just doesn't make sense. Why is it reacting like this? It just shows you how emotional, irrational, and sentiment driven the markets are. So now let's understand, let's look at this final article here. In a very laid back and snowy village in Switzerland known as Davos, this is where once a year great minds come together, global leaders, they come together and behind closed doors and literally set the ground and set the pace for a global economy. And we see here that they are heavily focusing on how tokenization and on-chain capital markets are reshaping global finance. This is not a coincidence. The SEC is in the know and took the participants, or rather the administration of the SEC, obviously participated in this session right here in Switzerland, because Davos, the World Economic Forum, is discussing and highlighting how tokenization and on-chain capital markets are literally reshaping global finance. This is the new way forward. This is how the future of finance and where the future of finance is going to be. It's going to be on a blockchain, on a smart contract blockchain, and all capital markets are going to be on chain. This is not wishful thinking. This has nothing to do with being hopeful. This is just how things are going to be in the future. So once we understand that and we look at today's market condition, do you really think that we are concerned with this short-term volatility? This is what we really need to understand. Let's take a deep breath, take a step back and look at the bigger picture. At this moment, the markets are irrational. At this moment, short-term, the markets are volatile. The global economy is at an uncertainty, right? However, when we look at what's happening in the administration, and right now, like we just said, the World Economic Forum, they set the pace, they set the tone. Let's read even further. So the long envisioned integration of traditional financial systems with blockchain technology is now becoming a reality. So they're literally telling us that they've been working on this vision for very long, and now finally it is happening right in front of us. So blockchain-based capital markets infrastructure is enhancing efficiency, liquidity, interoperability, and enabling 24/7 assets movement, instant settlement, and improved collateral mobility. So what we are talking about here is that capital markets are asset classes, like we said, real estate, commodities, bond market. Those are asset classes, right? And all of this is getting ready to come on chain. Why? Because it's enabling 24/7 asset movement, instant settlement. It's more, you can mobilize your collateral easier because you're tokenizing your collateral. So another thing also is that as of now, in the traditional markets, there's only 25 trillion US dollars of securities currently eligible as collateral. However, out of 230, so almost 10 times potential, there is a potential for $230 trillion being used as collateral. However, only 25 is being used in the real world, in the traditional finance. So tokenization could significantly unlock and expand this liquidity, right? And be more, so for institutions to be more capital efficient. Let's read even further. So this transformation often happens quietly, right? Nobody's making a big deal out of all of this. Infrastructures are being built in the background. Things are moving forward in the background, and it's done quietly. There's not a big deal made out of this. However, it's very significant. So an unseen earthquake that changes the landscape before we realize before we realize it's occurred. So this is exactly what Ethereum is all about. There's not a lot of road campaign going on. There's not a lot of shouting and just constant marketing going on. These things are being built in the background, are happening in the background. DeFi is being built, infrastructures are being installed, institutions are piling up, treasury companies, Ethereum treasury companies are piling up, and there's not much noise made about it until by the time we realize it, it's already done. And that's exactly basically what's happening right in front of us right now. And these are discussions done in Davos, Switzerland, like we say. Another thing I'd like us to understand here, community, is also that the future of money and digital assets were the key topic, right? Including how tokenization is used in traditional finance, how new and traditional assets interact, and what it means for public and private markets, right? Another thing is here, tokenization is the process of converting assets, like we discussed. Which assets? Stock market, real estate, commodities, and so on and so forth, into digital tokens on a blockchain, making them easier to trade, track, and manage using smart contracts. What is the largest smart contract blockchain? It's Ethereum. Where are the most infrastructures built right now? It's on Ethereum. Where are all the tokenized assets, real world assets, stable coins? It's on Ethereum, and it's happening very quietly. Nobody's making a big deal about it until the landscape before us is shaping, is changing. An unseen earthquake is happening on Ethereum right now, and nobody's talking about it, realizing it until it's done. And this is not my words, these are the words from the World Economic Forum. Another thing I want us to understand here is that central bankers, governments, and financial institutions are now driving and observing how DeFi, decentralized finance, fits into the broader financial ecosystem. Do we realize what's happening? Who talks about DeFi? And what's the largest DeFi ecosystem? It's single-handedly on Ethereum, and we're about to verify that fact. Another thing I want us to understand is that, like we see here, regulation landscape is accelerating right now, right? Particularly in the largest economy in the world, which is the US. So ultimately, everyone needs certainty, like we said, around how digital assets are regulated and how different jurisdictions are approaching and shaping what we can expect from the future regulations. And this is exactly what's happening. One regulation, one bill at a time. We just got the Genius Act bill passed. Now we're waiting for Clarity Act to be passed. And then staking, Ethereum ETF staking is going to take place. Now, all of these regulations will bring clarity and enable products on-chain to start being launched. So now, the long-envisioned convergence of traditional finance and crypto assets is happening and poised to rewrite the rules of global finance. This is straight from the World Economic Forum. They're telling us this, it's happening right now in front of our eyes. And we are rewriting literally the rules of global finance. So at the heart of this revolution is the rise of what? An on-chain capital market infrastructure. Do we realize what this means? What is the largest infrastructure on the blockchain? Where is that taking place? It's on Ethereum, an innovation that promises unprecedented efficiency, liquidity, and interoperability across global financial systems. Let's go right back over here. The key word is how decentralized finance fits into the broader financial ecosystem. It's all about DeFi. Now, where is the largest DeFi taking place? We just saw liquidations took place today. Which asset was used as the largest collateral? It was Ethereum. We just understood that, we just read here that in the background, a lot of things are happening, unseen earthquakes that changes the landscape before we realize it happened. And it's happening on Ethereum. So let's start verifying all of this. Where is DeFi being built? Where is the home of DeFi? Where's the home of tokenization and tokenized assets? Where is the future of money and digital assets? Where are the central banks, governments, and financial institutions? Where are they driving and observing decentralized finance? Let's answer all these questions right here. I want us to understand something, and we're closing this session with this. Stablecoins are actually a digital representation of an asset class, which is known as the foreign exchange, right? Or Forex. It's where different fiat currencies are being traded back and forth in the trillions of dollars. And right now, that's represented by stable coins. Right now, stable coins are predominantly US dollar, but in the future, obviously, there'll be yen, there'll be Swiss francs, there'll be euros, there'll be all these foreign currencies. And the stable coin market is only at 256 billion. This is minute, as we're about to see. How large is the Forex market? What's the daily trading volume? Right now, it's market cap, not daily trading volume, just market cap alone is 256 billion. This is very small. Now, let's look how massive the stablecoin market is getting ready to be. And so we're talking about daily volume of 6.6 trillion. This is in one single day, 24 hours. The stablecoin market, the foreign exchange market, also known as FX, foreign exchange, is the largest financial market in the world. It is by far the largest. So whenever you hear stablecoin and stablecoin regulations being passed, and you should think about it this way, it is by far the largest financial market in the world. And it has a daily volume of 6.6 trillion. So let's come back over here. This is the digital representation of a market that has over 6 trillion in daily volume. And right now it's only sitting at 256 billion. And where is all of this taking place? That's the natural question we should ask ourselves. Right here on Ethereum. Over 60% of a 6.6 trillion daily volume market is taking place on Ethereum, is dominated by Ethereum. This is one asset class. Let's look at another one. Another one large asset class is treasuries or bond market. The bond market is extremely large, and there's tokenized treasuries, tokenized bonds, and BlackRock is completely dominating here, right? They have BULLRUN, as you see here. They're the number one. BULL token with over 2.5 billion in market cap. It's still minute, it's so small, but nonetheless, we're in the early stages. 2.5 billion in market cap. Now let's look how the home of treasuries is Ethereum by 75%. Now let's look how large is this market. This market is 140 trillion. 140 trillion US dollars. That's how large this market is. So, like it says here, you might think the stock market is huge, but the bond market is even bigger. And where's the bond market? Where's the bond market at home at with 140 trillion? 75% of the bond market is right here on Ethereum. So we looked at the two largest asset classes, and they're all on Ethereum predominantly right here. And they're only sitting at 6 billion. And this is a 140 trillion market, but we are only at 6 billion right now. So it's a drop in the ocean. And this is when we say that a lot of liquidity is getting ready to hit the industry, hit the market. We just saw over 6 trillion in daily volume just from Forex stablecoins. Now treasuries, another 140 trillion market. We're only sitting at 6 billion. So whenever we say there's a lot of liquidity coming on Ethereum, we best believe it. Now let's look at the final asset class, which is known as commodities, right? Commodities are oil, gold, silver, copper, things like that. And how large is that? Let's start by just looking how massive this industry is. So the nominal value of commodities market is projected to reach 142 trillion just this year alone. And then it's going to grow, and it's projected to grow by up to 163 trillion by 2030. So within the next 5 years, it's about to grow by 20 trillion on top of it. We are talking about commodities market. Now, we just heard that things are getting ready to be tokenized and brought on chain. So this means that all these assets that we've been looking at, let's go back again. Let's go back. I like to remind us. So there's a decentralized finance taking place by central banks, governments, and financial institutions. The future is tokenization on chain through capital markets, which are, like we saw here. Let's go back. What is that? You see here, this is on-chain stock market, real estate, or commodities, right? And so much more. Foreign exchange, bond markets, those are even larger than these three. Bond market and foreign exchange markets are way larger than these three markets right here. And we saw that commodities, bond market, and the foreign exchange markets, where are they? They're predominantly right here on Ethereum. Commodities is the final one, right? Where is it? By 99%, single-handedly, commodities are on Ethereum. We saw stocks, tokenized stocks. We just saw also that eToro, they're also launching on Ethereum as well. So we see commodities market here. We see tokenized treasuries right here as well. And then we see the Forex market, which is stablecoins. All of this are tokenized assets and are on-chain and predominantly on Ethereum. What does this mean? What does this tell us? It tells us that let's not be carried away by this short-term volatility like the market is behaving right now. This is short-term volatility. And we need to understand this, that in the short term, the markets will be volatile, especially a young market like the crypto industry. But in the long term, let's close with this. We should understand that every major thing that is happening the transformation often happens quietly, very quiet. And it's unseen earthquake that changes the landscape before we realize it just happened. So while people are panicking about the uncertainties, the markets, the tariffs, the wars, these are distractions. While transformation is happening quietly, while earthquakes are taking shape on Ethereum, and before we realize that it happened, it will be right in front of our eyes. And this is where decentralization, decentralized finance is taking over the financial ecosystem, and it's all happening right on Ethereum. As we saw, these tokenized assets are supposed to be tokenized stocks, tokenized real estate, tokenized commodities, tokenized foreign exchange, tokenized bonds, and majority of them, like we just saw, are taking place right on Ethereum, right, predominantly. So let's not be shaken by the short-term volatility that is taking place, but let's embrace and recognize that the silent earthquake is taking place quietly, and people are not realizing what's happening behind the scenes. But we know better, right? And we're not moved by these short-term activities because we understand that the large earthquake is happening right in front of our eyes, and it's happening on the largest smart contract blockchain, Ethereum. Let's hold on to our long-term vision and not be carried away by this short-term volatility, and understand that the markets will always be irrational and will always act negatively through whenever there's uncertainties. But with this knowledge, I'd like us to be equipped and understand that let's focus on the long term and what's being built quietly. And this is how earthquakes are built. And before we realize it, we're in the middle of it, right? So community, this is it for today. I hope that this message came across well. Let's not be swayed by the noise and the short-term uncertainties and volatility that is taking place in the markets right now, but let's focus, like we said, on what's being built, the infrastructure, DeFi. Everything is coming digitally, coming on chain. The global markets are being moved from traditional markets on chain, and their home of choice, the largest smart contract blockchain of choice where infrastructures are built, is Ethereum. That will benefit Survivor, it will benefit Killer Whale, and it will definitely benefit BULLRUN as well. All three of them are launched on Ethereum. Survivor and Killer Whale are directly paired with Ethereum, and staking is the next move that will take place. And we have a staking platform, a staking ecosystem that is currently the number one most staked token, BRL, is in the entire industry. With that said, community, I want to wish you all a wonderful, wonderful rest of your weekend. And for the Queens tomorrow, I wish you a wonderful session on Sunday. So if you're not part of that yet, I would highly encourage you to be part of these Fridays and Sunday Queens only, Queens exclusive sessions. With that said, community, I want to wish you all a wonderful rest of your weekend till we meet again.